Michael. How are you doing? Yes, I know. Well, I mean, if it makes you feel any better, I did have a fiduciary responsibility at the time that I took seriously, and I actually admired the model. I did. I thought that, maybe I would do something like that. I mean, if I actually die, and I've actually gone through a formal process that I already know about because I did have a time frame in my life when I worked for real estate attorneys that also dealt with probate law, including end of life care issues, things like making estate plans, right? Inheritance, things like that. Yeah. So there's actually legal things you have to do in order to allow for your estate to be used as an investment in real property that can also include intangible property that can be made available for other people, including people that aren't necessarily biological family, but that have made a formal commitment to participate in a particular endeavor. Yeah, right. And so when you're in the position of being a member of the executive board, you actually have a fiduciary responsibility, including during the time frame. But this is a big question, right? What happens years down the road? And especially what happens years down the road if that fiduciary responsibility may have very profound political implications, especially insofar as it was an expressly political organization, right? Yeah, so we're not really novices, even though we might have been young at the time. We aren't incapable of understanding these matters, and maybe have even done something formal, like, I don't know, served on a board of directors. Right. Yeah. Well, there's this other information that's come to my attention. I tried to talk to you about that bond. Yeah. Right. And it's a weird thing because the bond was for around my birthday. But from where you were from and where you lived and where your parents both worked and expected, I guess, to retire and receive pension benefits and own property and blah, 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 right? Yeah, and this thing, it came up a couple of years ago that even though the bond had expired, all of these deals connected to that specific bond kept getting run, and it kept trying to get me to do stuff connected to you. Yeah, and we haven't talked. Yeah, I know we haven't had a real meaningful relationship for a very long time, but something was very, very insistent on trying to resurrect this, short time frame that we, knew each other at a very important point in time that just so happened to be the years that that bond was coming due, right? Yeah. So that bond was maturing at the time, we were doing those things. And nobody told us. Right. And now, 25 years later, somebody wants to run all of these deals that got hooked up on that bond, especially the, maturation of that bond, the realization, the yield. I don't know. I guess you and I are considered part of that. That, you know, may or may not be something that was disclosed to other people that decided to put us in that situation to begin with. Yeah. I mean, if they had told me that there was some sort of competitive bidding process going on about what we do, how long we do it, where we do it, I would not have agreed and consented, just so you know. But nobody told me. Did they tell you? Did they tell you, here you go? And if you meet these benchmarks, we're going to make sure that in a couple of years, we're going to hook you up with this. Because I don't think they did. And if they did, I think you probably would have been very disappointed that they underestimated you. All right. Well, here's the situation. I'm reviewing something. I have this evidence that I'm reviewing, and I'm disclosing to you, but I'm also bringing this up right now because today's a very important day. Yeah, apparently there is some Fannie Mae thing. You know how that is. Those Fannie Mae things, the outstanding Fannie Mae things, been going on for a while. Yeah, and at least where I am, it's before 10 o'clock a.m. So I want to go ahead and get this on the record. Now, I found some information concerning changes to law that happened in the state of Texas, set to go into effect 2005. Well, among these changes are also sort of context regarding previous law changes for which there would be no other record, but they're very relevant. I'm just going to read two samples here. Under the Real Property and Housing Professions section of the Occupations Code, this regards licensing, it says here as a note, Section 8A, VACS, Article 6573A, refers to the Real Estate Recovery Fund, In 1991, the legislature enacted Section 403.094 Government Code, now repealed, under which many funds were merged into the General Revenue Fund in 1993. And many funds, accounts, and dedications of revenue were abolished on September 1st, 1995. As a result of action taken under Section 403.094 Government Code, the Real Estate Recovery Fund became a trust account in the General Revenue Fund, designated as the Real Estate Recovery Trust Account. The revised law is drafted accordingly in this section and throughout the chapter. Well, the point of the matter is that these different funds were allowed to be consolidated and then, or rather merged into the General Revenue Fund, and then the old accounts by September 1st of 1995 were abolished. It would be a very good time, don't you think, for someone to start planning on taking important assets and assuring that they were in the right place and the right position to be able to deposit whatever was set to yield from the abolition of those accounts on time. You know, there are time frames, including how long it takes to complete those transactions. Sometimes it can take 30 days, sometimes 60, sometimes 6 months. What would 6 months after September 1st of 1995 be? You know what I mean? Yeah, but there's more. There's one more. Right here. Under claim for payment from trust account. This is why it's so important, Michael. 3. Section 8E VACS Article 6573A refers to the recovery of a judgment based on grounds, quote, that occurred on or after May 19th, 1975, end quote. The revised law omits this reference as unnecessary because Section 1101.605 limits recovery from the Real Estate Recovery Trust account to actions that have accrued within the 2 years preceding the date the action was brought. May 15th of 1977 would be 4 days short of the end date of that 2-year accrual period. Yeah, it wasn't real property. Was it? It was genetic property. It was a biological property. It was my property, and it was your property, right? I mean, because that's the kind of language they speak. I need to hear from you, and I need to hear from your people. This is not acceptable under any fucking circumstances. I don't do proxies. I don't do derivatives. I don't do diversions. And I don't do international swap outs so that you can try to leverage upstream, downstream in order to get a workers' comp claim to cap the liability. It's 9:52 a.m. on August 31st, 2021. My name's Charity Colleen Krause. What the fuck's your name again? Who the fuck are you? Who were your people that you allowed this to go down for 25 fucking years and didn't say anything? Any of you. Please remember when you guys were playing your little games with your little college friends, I was on the board of directors, and I intend to hold every single fucking one of you fiduciarily responsible for everything that's happened during that time and since then. I don't care how many friends in Congress got awards